soul, soul to soul, soul to soul.
No matter how great your words, maybe you will be judged by your actions. Welcome to the show, Shoal to Shoal Talk Show. Today we have Brother Pawan from UK with us. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you.
Tell me something about your upbringing.
Well, I was born in England, but my parents were born in India, in Punjab. So all my family were born in India. My mother and father came to the UK in 1966, I think. Then I was born in 1969. So I have two brothers, one sister, and parents still both alive, and they're all in the UK at the moment. So I'm the only one in my family born in England. I studied in London, but I lived in the Midlands, working class background. So life was simple and basic, which was good, a good lesson. And then I studied in London, and then I ended up staying in London after my studies. I studied to be a dentist and qualified, and then set up my own practice and worked in various practices as well. At the moment, I currently work in my own practice and work as a dental trainer as well. So it's a balance of clinical and also teaching the new graduates as well. My spiritual life started about 12 years ago when I came across the Brahma Kumaris. My wife then, she used to drive past the main centre in Willesden, Global Corporation House. She's a dentist as well, and she used to drive past it every day. And she always wondered what's inside that building, what's inside that building. She also Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual University. She always wondered what that meant. So as it happened, she was doing an evening class to do with computers, Excel spreadsheet. And behind her was a sister in a white sari and a badge. And she asked her a question, because, oh, you're from the centre. She goes, yeah. And an invite was given. And then, as they say, the rest is history. She took the course. And then 6 months later into her course, I saw changes in herself, certain changes of thinking, moods, they're all improved. So I thought there must be some benefit in this. And also in my life as well, I also wanted more fulfillment. It was just like normal formula. You wake up, you go to work, you meet your friends, you have a bit of social, you go back, and the same thing starts again and again and again. It was fun, but there was no fulfillment in that. So about 12 years ago, I took the course as well. And been following this path more rigidly in the last 6 years. And each time I've taken a step to commit to this lifestyle, I've always found it a benefit. And that's why it keeps me going.
Tell us something about your economical background.
Like I said, my parents were basic workers from India, so they had no professional skills as such. So my father used to work in a factory, and my mother used to work in part-time jobs as she can. But because there's 4 of us to bring up, she didn't work so much because she was looking after the household. So my dad was the only person working in the household. So things were, we had everything we needed, and it was happy, but we didn't have any luxuries as such, which was fine growing up. And even at university, it was quite difficult. So most of the students now in the UK qualify with a debt. So that was an experience to qualify with a debt and working towards it. So since that time I've become a professional, I've been able to support my parents a little bit more, and my brothers have also qualified and graduated, and they've helped support the family together. So it's comfortable at the moment, but having a daughter herself, she's 11 now, again her upbringing, you can see there's much more demand as it was in our days. For us, playtime was playing with marbles or just playing in the streets. But now it's computer games, it's this or this show or that show. So lifestyles are more expensive these days. But again, we're trying to maintain a balance, bringing up a child. And given the value of what comes your way, should be protected and looked after so it lasts as well. And that applies for relationships as well. So financially it's comfortable, but it still have to be careful because living in London is quite a tough place. But we're trying to instill all these principles in our child and still following ourselves as well. So we have to be careful most of the times as well.
Which religion do you use to follow?
My parents were brought up with Hinduism as a background. They're Hindu Punjabis. And they used to do bhakti, the following gods. And being a young child, you'd watch them and you'd follow without understanding why. So my religious background was Hindu, But I didn't understand too much. My mum used to tell me all the stories and all the tales of Krishna and Shiva and Ganesh and everything. So I liked those storytelling, but it just was just a story. It had no substance or meaning to it. And I'd sometimes follow mum, do puja, jagran, whatever was going on. I'd do it because it was a social thing. But again, there was no substance to it. And when I was about, say, 15, 16, I started questioning about God. You know, they do so much puja, but I've not really experienced God or seen His work. They say God is everywhere, God is in nature, God is beauty. Okay, fine, that's there. But there wasn't any personal experience from God. So I kind of called myself an agnostic, where I kind of believed but didn't believe. You know, I wasn't convinced fully about God. I remember when I was a child, my mum and dad had bought me some new shoes. Like I said, things were quite tight as a child, and I bought some new shoes and I played football in the playground, and my new shoes were all scuffed and spoiled at the front. And I was walking home, and I knew when I got home, my mum's going to tell me off because these new shoes I've just spoiled. And just about 10 meters before home, I closed my eyes, said, God, if you exist, fix my shoes, please, fix my shoes. And I looked down and my shoes weren't fixed. And I thought, well, God, you're not really showing yourself. So as a young child, that was the only test I had. So again, you know, this belief of God, there wasn't anything that instilled it. Apart from my mum and dad's love for God, I thought maybe it must be real. But as a personal thing, I didn't experience as a child. And at university life, again, it didn't really come up as a question. There was intellectual discussions about spirituality and God, but nothing of substantial benefit or anything that would sway me whether to strongly believe in God or strongly disbelieve in God. And it's only, like I said, when my spiritual journey started, after experiencing the changes in my wife and taking the course at the Brahma Kumari's Centre in Pound Lane in Willesden, that I started to understand that God, for me, is a practical thing. And it was the fact that when I was understanding about the qualities of God and, you know, man-made God in the image of Himself, it was also the fact that those qualities exist inside me. And it was discovering those and tapping into that in a daily life that really then started for me to have a personal relationship with God. Yes, God does exist for me, because these powers aren't mine. They must be given. There's something I haven't learned or accumulated. They must be in me. So where do they come from? That's the question. So when I was doing the course, that's when I really started to have a strong belief, yes, God does exist. And He also started to answer those kind of intellectual, scientific questions. So it took me a little bit of time to get to grasp with the knowledge. And like I said, I became more pakka in the last, say, 6-7 years. So the first few years was flirting with the idea and discovering it and reading other texts and just trying to get a whole big picture of it. But then once it kind of, you know, like we said, once you've been hit once with the knowledge, it kind of stays with you. And I think that journey for more fulfillment, more answers started. And in my spiritual life, each time I made a change in my spiritual life, say with my diet, my purity of thoughts, thinking and actions, each time I found there was a benefit. I was able to experience more love. I was able to experience more joy. I was able to experience more relationship improvement with friends, siblings, parents. And I had the fortune in London, we had Daddy Janki with us for a few times, and also had the fortune that sometimes I would get to see her and ask her, say, Daddy, I understand and intellectually what's going, but I don't feel it in my heart. I don't feel what I should feel, what people say God makes them feel like. And I'd ask her a question and she'd go quiet, and in her wisdom she'd answer me with another question, which would be a question for myself to answer for myself, and I knew the answer then. So for instance, it was like once I went to say, Daddy, I'm not feeling, you know, God's kind of power or love. And she turned around and she goes, your diet is pure, isn't it? And I thought, thank you, I'll see you next time. And I went away and I need to really purify my diet and everything and the way I ate. And I found a few weeks later, I did start to feel that change coming through. So then I realized that to really get the most out of this spiritual lifestyle, it was to commit more to it. And then hence, step by step, following all the maryadas as best as possible, all the spiritual lifestyle or yogi lifestyle. And then I started to reap the benefits, start experiencing the powers, using it with my friends, using it with my parents, using it with my brothers and sisters who aren't really spiritual. They're not really religious either. My elder brother is more kind of, probably doesn't believe in God. My middle brother, he's probably does more bhakti, but doesn't really understand the depth of God. But the conversations are good. They're exciting sometimes. Sometimes they're confrontational, but it's a healthy conversation. I also had the fortune at Global Corporation House to become a teacher of Raj Yoga meditation, which I found a wonderful way of connecting further with myself, because we're all students really, the way we're kind of led to believe, and I really felt that we are students, because when I have a person in front of me who's seeking spiritual answers or wanting some spiritual teachings, when I impart gyan that's given to us from our seniors, it also invokes my questioning of it as well, and I revisit old questions and just to check that I've got it right, and they ask questions and it checks myself as where I am, so it keeps me fresh as well. So I'm learning, and sometimes they'll ask me questions which I haven't really thought about, and I say, let me come back to you, let me think about this, and I'll do some research afterwards, and I'll come back and I'll thank them for bringing it to my attention. It enriches me as well. So it's a wonderful thing to be able to be called a teacher, but we're all students really, but to have people like myself who come with questions, who come with answers, seeking some knowledge, it's a great honour and privilege. And I particularly like to focus on young professionals, because I work in a professional background with dentistry, where I have patients who are professionals, nurses, and I'm working with a whole group of people. So it's really nice to be able to use powers, virtues all the time. Someone's made a mistake and it's kind of, it's irritated a patient who then gets angry with the nurse, who then gets angry with the nurse and another nurse, and they get angry with me, or whatever it is. So there's all these kind of dynamics going on. But it's wonderful to be able to use powers to kind of calm the situation down, to give some way of better thinking for that person, and to doing clarity. So nowadays when patients come, subtly I'm giving them vibrations, they feel calmer in the environment, the nurses are all calmer, and I've noticed a change in my work environment. And nurses would say, oh, can I work with Dr. Kumar, because it's a better working environment, they want to work with me because they know that that session will run nicely and peacefully and calmly. So again, the power of vibration is very important, and acting and working silently on that. So when a patient comes, I'm listening to their problems, but internally I'm sending out vibrations of peace, calmness, love, comfort, security, and they feel that change. And they always say at the end of the appointment that it was a good experience for them. So even at that level, I know, even by not imparting any spiritual knowledge by words, but just by your presence and your being, really works. And each time that happens again, it uplifts me, and again God's love comes into me again each time. So it's almost like it's a pleasurable thing where to do service. Sometimes I'll do talks, public talks, and you don't know what kind of questions you're going to get faced with, or the topic is very wide, and it also helps me as well. And again, after the talk I've done that, people have asked me questions and I'd have to churn a little bit and come with an answer. And afterwards you feel so exhilarated, because I have a belief that we are instruments. The knowledge that I've accumulated, it comes through God, it comes through a spiritual power, divine power, and in that moment, in that time, for that hour, I do feel enriched, I do feel warm, I do feel more enthused, I do feel more energetic. So my service helps me to keep a stage, but it also keeps me grounded at the fact that I can't rely on that, because that may not always be there. Then it's individual work at home with meditation in the morning, going to class when possible if my work commitments allow, and then also a silent time in the evening as well helps, and also with family as well, having discussions. So just keeping it new, keeping it real, keeping it exciting as well, I think is quite essential. Because sometimes I've come across where there's a dull phase, it's all kind of stable, nothing's happening, there's no newness. And again, I think that newness also helps to see different ways, different solutions for different problems, because problems are arising all the time in different forms. So keeping that newness keeps my spirituality alive, and that spirituality keeping alive keeps my belief in God absolutely firm, and just makes it firmer and firmer and firmer.
Whom you look up to when you are in stress?
The answer to that is simple. It's normally the divine God, because the stress that's there, I kind of understand that it's an artificial man-made thing, and it's made worse by my thinking, that I've allowed that stress to accumulate and be seen as stress by myself. So I just need silence, and then, like I said in the teachings, that we know the qualities of the soul, And God, being the Supreme Soul, has those qualities in abundance. And sometimes, you just forget that they're there, and you have that lapse of a second where you just feel disconnected. So in that time, a bit of silence, takes a few seconds, and sometimes even I'll walk out an environment just to create a little bit of time for myself and connect for about a minute or so, steady myself. And in that time, either a solution comes, and in that silence, some words of comfort come for myself or for other people. So I think in times of stress, or in times of need, or in times of a solution, a little bit of silence and being with the divine really helps to settle that, and get an inspiration internally that really helps to connect inside. The other thing I find also is these pilgrimages that we as a family make annually. We come to Madhuban, and always there's a surprise in store. Say, for instance, for this visit, I'd come with, say, a spiritual sickness. Not sickness is a strong word, but spiritual malaise. It's a little bit moldy, a little bit old, a little bit something newness, something needed to be happening. I've been away from Madhuban, and work been very hectic, and maybe I hadn't been doing my meditation or yoga as much as I'd like to. So your stage or your feeling drops a little bit. And then I came to Gyan Sarovar, which is a complex higher up, and then spent some time here. But even then, it wasn't breaking. It wasn't melting like I'd expected to. And then by fortune, or by karma, or by luck, or whatever you want to call it, I got asked to come down to Shanti and spend some time with Daddy and some seniors. On my own, my uncle and my daughter stayed here. And I spent 2 days in amongst the seniors, met the daddies, met some senior brothers. And what I felt and what I saw was immense love. Immense, deep love without any words, just vibration, by feeling, by watching two daddies give drishti to each other, just be in that environment. There was just love oozing out. And somehow, again, like I said, the vibration of that melted something inside me. And what I was feeling, that malaise, had just disappeared. It really, when I came back up to Gyan Sarovar 2 days later, all the kind of issues I was kind of wanting to let go had gone. And then my Madhuban experience really started again. And I think now I can fill my bucket up, fill my shoes up, fill my bags up, fill my heart up, and then I go back to England and use what I learned. So having that experience really allowed that to come into me, and I can then take that with me, and hopefully it'll sustain me for the next time that I come here, and wait for my next surprise when I come to Madhuban.
Tell us something about your belief systems.
Clarify that in what way, in what belief system?
The belief systems you had before coming to this Brahma Kumaris.
I think my belief system, like I said earlier, it was kind of agnostic, where I didn't have enough evidence to convince myself that God existed, but I also knew something did exist. And being scientific, I just didn't know what it was, and I didn't have the proof to see it. So I think my belief system was that inherently I always felt I was a good person at heart. I've never felt that I'd done something intentionally on purpose to get the better of somebody or hurt anybody on purpose. So inherently I always felt I was a good person. And what I was finding sometimes in certain situations, I wasn't being the best I could be. And I think that was the other thing that led me to follow the spiritual path, is that ultimately I just wanted to do more good than bad. I wanted to just have an accumulation of goodness. With my parents, they taught me about karma, and what you do comes back to you, and that kind of little things were taught through bhakti. But again, it was just like a theory. So things I could take as a theory and use, fine, I'll use it. But with karma, it was also at that stage, in a younger stage, that, okay, I'm doing good now, but I'm not feeling the benefit of it right now. I had the kind of a belief system that if you did it there and then, you may get a benefit there and then. I wasn't feeling that. So the belief systems were there that my parents kind of introduced me to, but again, fairly weak, because again, there was no evidence. So my belief systems beforehand, does God exist or not exist? 50-50. And then by practicing some of the bhakti systems that my parents taught, again, 50-50. Probably actually maybe more negative, because nothing was coming back that way. No love, no feeling, no emotion, nothing. So I think only when I came across spiritual path and I started to get some answers, that's when I think my belief system started to change, that yes, definitely God does exist.
What questions did you have in your mind, and did you got all answers here?
Yeah, some of the questions I'd ponder and think about was like life after death, reincarnation. Again, it was a very Hindu kind of belief, and I really wanted to understand that and feel it and have evidence of it. But some things I also understood that can't be evidence. As humans, we can only understand what we as humans, our intellectus will allow us to understand. There's probably something out there that's beyond our understanding. So I wouldn't push a question to the end where if I didn't get an answer, I'd be dissatisfied. I'd push a question, and if I got an answer that had a fairly good hypothesis that yes, this could be true, it makes sense, it fits with my belief, then I would accept that. I wasn't like, no, I'm not having that. So some of the questions like life after death, that was another one, reincarnation. An understanding of the soul and the journey, and some of the feelings of when you have deja vu or you meet someone and you have an instant rapport, that you felt their connection, their feeling, if they feel like a sister or a brother to you straight away. There must have been some kind of past connection that has got this bond instantly. And I've met, quite a few people that have instantly had a great kind of deep brotherly love, sisterly love, a caring nature towards them. And I've not known them before, but I really felt that I really must do so much for this person. And again, those little emotions really reaffirm that yes, this is a possibility, that yes, this soul may have met in the past and their connection is still going on in this journey. So that kind of answered that question. I think the biggest question about does God exist, I think that was instantly answered when understanding the soul and the qualities of the soul, and feeling that when we interact with each other, the vibrational field between each other, between a person, between a group, between anything, in that way I felt, yes, there must be something that drives this energy. It just doesn't come from nowhere. It's just not just dry matter. It's not chemical symbols put together. It must be a supreme divine power that does that. And in certain events, only the power of a divine, the power of God could have done that. And that reaffirmed my belief, yes, God does exist, and I have my answer, and this is the path I'd like to follow.
Tell us about your best experience during meditation.
My best experience in meditation was probably early on. I think early on, probably because I was very enthusiastic, very open, and very, relaxed, and allowing all the energy to flow around me. And people talk about having this kind of bodiless stage or the red light feeling. And that was the first time I had it. I think second or third time I meditated with a group, with the teacher. And, it was a guided meditation. And I really did feel that this warmth, a warm glow, like the sun hitting the back of your neck and the back of your whole body. I felt this warmth. And it felt like I went to this place where there was no time there. It was never ending. It felt like I'd been there for a long, long, long time. And in matter of fact, it was maybe only about 10, 15 seconds, 30 seconds maximum that I was there. So that experience really did take me to, they talk about this bodiless experience, this kind of outer level, the subtle region, Paramnam, and that was probably the best experience. And afterwards, I really felt a deep silence as well. I didn't really want to come into sound. I just wanted to be quiet and stay with that feeling. I think that was my best experience with meditation. After that, the meditation changes, and like I said, I always trying to think about newness. So meditation then became more of a chit-chat, a discourse, or pondering a thought, or thinking about a virtue. So it became more kind of practical meditation, and not so much experiential. The experiential meditation I tend to have either in the early morning, Amritala sometimes. I have that kind of feeling again of lightness and being fulfilled. It wasn't as deep as the very, very first time that I felt it. It's at maybe a kind of a baby level that I still feel it, but it's enough to give me that charge, that energy, and that power. And the other types of meditation is where I've been taken into meditation with a senior like Dadi Gulzar once was speaking, and while she was speaking, it all went quiet and silent and deep. And again, I felt this silence and like warmth and love. And again, I drove home 20 minutes, and again in total silence. Mayuba was with me. We both had the same experience. We didn't say a single word. It was this depth of silence, and in that silence was that warmth and that feeling of love, the love of God, and just that feeling of family again came through that.
What type of relation do you have with God?
Yeah, God has been everything in my journey. He's been a strict father who guided me to, you know, the feeling of what's right, what's not. He's been a very caring mother, a loving mother, a very, very loving mother, a forgiving mother as well, you know. So I think I really have experienced God in all relationships. He's been a brother where sometimes you're a bit shy to tell the father everything, so you tell a brother. And a sister, I think, and also a friend. Sometimes in Amrit Vela, I'll sit with God and have a chit chat as a brother first, and just say, look, this is what's going on. Share some issues, and he said, go and talk to the Father, and then God will become my Father. Then, so in a matter of a meditation, I would see God in a few different relationships, but mainly, I think it's a mother and father relationship and a brother. Those are the ones I tend to work with a lot. Have a lot of chit chat. So, and each time. And we have a picture sometimes. We sometimes meditate in front of a picture, and you can feel a slight gentle sternness, but with lots of love behind it. When I'm telling him something that I want to work on, improve on a bad situation, and other times it's just love and eyes of mercy and love, and it just uplifts you that yes, this is what you're doing, this is right. Keep on going. I think the father-mother relationship and the brother are probably the strongest ones that I experience.
How can you communicate with the one whom you can't see?
I think, again, it's a lot how I started off. I needed evidence. I needed proof. And that was the thing, because I can't see, can't touch, can't feel it. I started to understand it has to be an experiential feeling. So the communication is by experience. And that experience then translates into visual experience. So you would see things happening in front of you. People would change and say things. Again, okay, they weren't directly God's words or whatever, but it must be the vibration of a superpower, a supreme being, divine, or God's power. So my communication with something you can't feel, see, touch, or speak is again via love and experience from the scenes around you and what I feel inside. Because it wasn't there until I took this kind of path, and now it's there and I know what it's like. And sometimes you have a balance of, like, you want to push things through on a mental level, on a physical level, on a gross level, but sometimes you'll get a little bit of a call or a knock from a deeper level, that deeper voice of experience, that deeper communication we're talking about. How do you know, how do you experience communication with something you can't see? But again, that kind of inner feeling, that inner voice, and that inner conscience, I know it's been checked or monitored by God or a supreme power, telling me this is the way to go, this is not to do. So that communication it's an ongoing commentary in the background through experience.
Do you use God's power in your practical life?
Definitely. Sometimes I actively have to think or invoke that state in myself, where I'll try to find time aside and have a silence moment, where I can then have a bit of meditation, again, like yoga, communication, fill myself with God's qualities, and then therefore come through me. And I think what happens is, and what I find, what I see kind of young professional, is that it's like with anything, when you create a habit, it becomes more natural. So what I'm feeling now is, when I'm internally, I feel more calmer and more rested, and my meditation is going really well and connected, I'm kind of thinking that it's happening on a very low level. It's like a Microsoft Office. You know, it's a system, it's an operating system running in the background. Once in a while you get a virus and you need to do like a virus check and clean it and debug it and get rid of it all. And, you know, I'll work spiritually on myself. But sometimes it's like, I've got a feeling that it's running in the background, but sometimes, like I said, I need to step out of that comfort and then go into meditation or have a connection and then use it in certain situations when they come up. If there's something stressful I can't find an answer to, or there's a disagreement at work or something, then again I would tend to go into silence and just trying to find some calm, silent space. And in that silence, something will come. And yeah, so I think God is a very big part of my daily life, and you know, the use of God's powers, or you know, working with other people, it definitely comes through.
If you wouldn't have been a BK, then what would you have been?
Probably be sad and miserable. Yeah, I don't know. It's difficult. I think what would have happened is I would have found a way here, because I had a search for something. I'm pretty sure I would have followed some form of spiritual path. But also knowing what answers I was looking for, I probably would have changed a few times, because I have followed just when I was doing the BK course, and now I still look at other spiritual belief systems and see what's been said and discussed and see what's going on. And the answers aren't as deep as I'm getting being with Baba here now. So yes, I probably would have followed some kind of spiritual lifestyle, but probably not the way I am now. And it would have taken me longer to get to this stage. I think I would have got to it eventually, but up until that point, it would have been a longer journey and not so pleasant, I guess.
Where do you see yourself 10 years from now?
10 years from now, I'm hoping that my yoga practice and my yogi lifestyle would just keep on pushing me towards a more kind of contented lifestyle. I know things around us are changing quite rapidly. My daughter's 11, she'll be growing up, she'll be facing a lot of issues, there'll be a lot of tests coming up. So I think 10 years time, I'm hoping that in myself, I'm increasing my powers, that we've talked about God's powers, that they're instantly, that they're there to be accessed at any time. So it's this continuous journey to empower myself to be able to fly over obstacles. So in myself in 10 years, I'm a better yogi. I'm a more contented yogi. And I hope I'm helping lots of people around me.
Thank you for giving your valuable time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.